Okay, I thought I'd get back to the mood and media series of videos using a recent kind of lighting scheme that we've been working through. With lighting and these backgrounds, okay, there's all kinds of different options that you can do. In terms of the compositions that we utilize with these lighting schemes, I mean, these backgrounds can just be these kind of abstract transitions of color, value, temperature, etc. You can kind of do anything you want practically. And once you stamp the imagery over the top of it, it looks pretty good, even if it doesn't really make sense to you from maybe a realistic lighting standpoint. I mean, who cares, you know? Just as long as it looks good. I mean, most of the things that we do in artwork itself, they're all going to be kind of just different versions. We're not trying to replicate, you know, something that a camera could do more. We're trying to infuse kind of the spirit of, I don't know, our own experiences, aesthetics, you know, what do you like in visuals, and you can inject that into the types of things, and in this case, backgrounds that you want to do or want to apply to it. Okay, specifically, what that means is if you like certain colors, you know, that don't necessarily that aren't necessarily present in given, you know, certain types of situations, nature. Who cares, and just put it in yourself, you know, if you like the color purple or something like that, you know, or, you know, extreme violets. I'm not saying that those things don't exist out there in nature, but, you know, there are certain hues that we might not see, or see in combination with other ones, but it doesn't really matter in, you know, artwork, you know, and that's where you're injecting what you want into it, you know, the Impressionists and things like that, Picasso, Van Gogh, you know what I mean? If they just all, a lot of times people kind of associate something good with photorealism, but why would we do that? You know, it's something that we can see with our own eyes, or something that a camera can do in a 15th of a second, you know. That's not necessarily good art. It could be, but it's something like that's more kind of indicative of really good kind of rendering skills, or, you know, kind of a precise kind of application of a given media to a realistic look. And like I said, that could be good, but it isn't necessarily something that we'd have to kind of adhere to, okay? So, anyway, what I'm doing here is I'm just doing those light beams, like in the recent underwater scenes, but why can't this be above water? It's just light beams and whatnot, and those can be anywhere. Okay, all right. That came together pretty fast. Look at that. I'm getting a little bit better, and I don't know about better, but certainly faster at doing this. And this time I worked from the bottom this way, so I'd leave this kind of top part light, you know, where the light is coming in. Before I was kind of working it down, and then it, you know, got really dark in there. But anyways, there's our good kind of swatches. I use my used paper towel. Why not? Use it as many times as it'll work. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit of crumbs. Just kind of, you know, brush them off a little bit. If one of them gives you a little trail, you know, who cares? Don't worry about that. There you have it, okay? All right, now mood and media. We're working with a given set composition of given designs so that we can see some different applications and different types of looks that we can get from the same stamps used in different ways, different colors, different backgrounds, different media. I don't know if I've done a mood and media in hybridings. I should. Maybe I'll do this kind of lighting scheme using some matte paper with the hybrid inks, maybe in a different color scheme too. Maybe we'll go with something like greens, or I don't know, you can do like explosive reds or something like that, or just transitions, maybe going from a rainbow pattern of, you know, I don't know, different colors like that. That might be kind of interesting. Okay, so mood and media, this is roughly set about right here. Can I just stamp that out in black? I might add one stamp to this because this stamp is in nature set number 8. And that's basically what the Mood and Media series is based around, a collection of images from that nature set number 8. Okay, so we have that. And then we have our pines and rocks, and I'll place it right here. Okay, like with all things, well, not every scene, but most of them, you're going to want to overlap your designs. I'm probably overlapping a good ½ inch into the Lakeside Cove Lg with the pines and rocks, okay? Okay, I have a good amount of ink over there, so kind of just holding on a little bit more that way. Okay, and then we have our reeds. Okay, this is reeds large right here. You can also stamp these reeds large in maybe a dark blue too. Let's do that. Let's add a little bit of depth to this foreground area. And I'll do it in dark blue. Okay. When you have multiple values of a certain stamp applied in there, it gives the scene some extra depth through the use of value. The things that are lighter seem farther off in the distance. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to add Pine Row into this scene. Okay. And let's do this one in kind of this medium blue. It's called light blue, but it's really more of a medium blue. Okay. Now, if you watched my videos on Stampscapes Stampscapes University, I've wiped off some images like this to give it a little bit of a head start in terms of the depiction of lighting. Okay. So I'm going to put this behind these trees here. So I'm going to wipe off the bottom quite a bit where it goes down into these trees, just so it gives me a softer look, and then the lighting is going to be coming from above. So I'll wipe off some of those trees like that in that lighting, okay? I'll just go ahead and stamp it on like so. And then we have trees in the background, right? If it was stamped in black, it would be a little bit too dark. We wouldn't be able to see the silhouette of these foreground trees anymore if we stamped that in the same value of black. Okay, now over here, I don't know if that color blue is going to show up over here because this area is darker, right? So let's go with a darker blue. Let's go with, you know, I can use the same blue that I stamped in these reeds down here. Or I can go with the Prussian blue. Let's go with the slightly lighter blue. It's kind of a navy blue. It's just called blue. Marvy's just basic blue. Okay, so here is what I'm doing. See, I'm going into it. This is about 2 inches. I'm going into it about 1/4 inch and wipe it off a good portion. And then I'm kind of transitioning up. What is that, about midway, 3/5 of the way? And I'm taking off a little bit less as I go up, so it's going from wet to dry down here, okay? That way, when I stamp it right over the silhouette of these trees, hopefully this bottom portion is dry enough to where it won't stamp out too much and kind of eradicate that nice silhouette of that Lakeside Cove. Okay, so there we go. See, it's a little bit lighter down there. See, that's a little bit darker. It is in this darker band, but kind of transitions down there like so. So it gives it a little bit more depth, and that's that Pine Row again from nature set number 8. Okay. Alright, now I do have this used in the scene as well, but I'm going to add in these light beams right now, so I tell you what, let's hold on the use of the oak branch overhang right now, because let's go ahead and have some fun with some white pigment ink like we've been doing in those underwater scenes. Check out the couple of the latest videos right before this one. Okay, so we have those light beams coming into the scene from that way. Okay. I'm going to try to keep it in the spirit of kind of emanating from the same location. So you see these beams are kind of going like that way. So somewhere off in the distance. You can kind of just go for an approximation. Sometimes I do have like a really definitive vanishing point, and I'll draw it on my piece of paper and I'll stick with it. But on something like this, I don't think it's going to matter as much because it just is such a small format here. Okay, so this is just your regular pigment ink right here. Okay, white pigment ink. Okay, so I'm just going to lightly dab this, and this is a cotton ball, and it is real cotton. It's I found the acrylic to not be as good or whatever. It just gave me a different feel. Okay, so there's a light beam like that. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever having that light beam like that, but it's because it's the only one there. So you're going to have to add some additional ones as well. Okay, coming in like so. Some of these I'll kind of dissipate. I'll just kind of have it trail off. I won't have it going, the full distance, all the way across the page. I think that it just looks better having a little bit more varied. Some of them you can kind of give it a wider ray as well. So changing the width of the beam it adds variation, and to me it has kind of a more harmonious, kind of natural look. Okay, see that right there? See, it's even kind of lighter than maybe this one. Maybe this one just looks lighter because there's more contrast, but I also did it kind of light. Alright, we can add another one maybe through here. Another thing too is you can have a beam coming from behind some trees and in front of other ones. So I can have it behind these ones and in front of these ones that are off in the distance. Okay, so I have to see which one's which. Okay. Let's go like something like this. I don't have to just perfectly stay off of, some tree that's in front of the beam. You can put some of the ink in front of the beam. It's not going to matter. And you can oscillate it too. You can have a little bit more ink here, there, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be completely solid. Okay, see that light coming through there like that? It's kind of making for an interesting composition, in my opinion. I think these beams are, at least in terms of this composition here, it looks kind of dynamic. And having kind of diagonals in a composition, and from compositional standpoint, it just adds kind of visual movement into a scene. All right, now this one's a really wide beam, as we can see, so maybe I'll just kind of do it a little bit lighter. I'll have I'll have it going in front of these reeds, down here. Okay, I'm having it go in front of one tree and in front of the rocks and then back of the other ones. Again, so, you know, it gives it just some variety there. Okay. All right. Now, keeping within the spirit of what I was mentioning, let's go with a real narrow beam, you know, the variety of size here. Let's see. Maybe I'll try to change the angle slightly. I'll go like this. Okay. Really narrow one. So I'm kind of hitting it kind of sporadically in some areas where it's a little bit brighter, a little bit duller in other areas. Okay. Get something like that going. I think that's about right. If you want to kind of strengthen some of these beams and add a little bit more variety, like I was talking about, let me hit this one right here. Let me just try to add a little bit to the top portion of this one beam. Okay. Maybe add a little bit more in here. About like that. So that one beam, it's kind of like a curtain of light. It kind of transitions, so it kind of it's really strong on the top and it kind of peters out like that. Okay, now what I like to do is for the source of light, I'll add a little bit more, or a lot more, of this lighting on these trees, or across imagery, or across some of the colored areas. I like to just kind of blend it in a little bit more and to add a little bit more of a sense of light within this space. Kind of keep it varied, you know, don't do it all the same, you know, kind of have a little bit more here and there, okay? By and large, it's emanating from up here, so I'll add a little bit more, and I'll put some in the trees like this, where that light's kind of coming from, and I'll kind of soften out, you know, soften up some of these other beams like so. I mean, it doesn't take a lot, okay? All right. Now, let's see here. Let's go ahead and I can probably stamp this in a dye-based ink black, but if you had something a little bit darker, maybe, I don't know. The Versafine, this is a white pigment ink, and this is a white black pigment ink. Sometimes that might go on a little bit more opaque and solid over the top of it, but you can try your dye-based inks. And you can also, I mean, I could have stamped this first. I just figured I won't have anything going in front of this branch, so I'm stamping the branch over the top of this one, okay? So go like this. I'm just using a small portion. You know, I don't want to eradicate all the beam work, you know, that we added in there. Okay. And here we go. It's kind of framing off the top of the scene nicely. See that? Okay. All right. Final touches on here. Pretty fast, quick scene, I would say. This is something that you could do, or you don't have to do. But let's go on and add some highlights, okay? White gel pen. Let's see if we can get in here a little bit. Okay, let's put a little bit of highlights on tops of some of these rocks. The darker the rock, I don't put as much of a highlight, right? Because if it's dark, the rock is fairly dark, then it means that no light is in there, so you know, you don't have to put as much or any highlighting on top of it. If you're going to shade something, you shade the bottom of it, right? If you highlight it, you put it towards the top or in the direction of whatever your light source, okay? So, let's see here. I don't know if you can see it right on top of some of these rocks. Okay, you see these ones right over here? Let's add a little bit of highlights to those ones. The light is coming from the left side of the scene, so I'll put it on the left side of those rocks. These rocks right here might be in shadow, but yeah, if you want to make them look a little bit more round and kind of bring out the volumes in them, you can put a little bit of highlight on them like this. Okay, see that? I mean, it's just a little splotch of that color right there, you know, white. See these trees right here? The light is coming from the left, so on the left side of these tree branches, you can kind of add this little touch of some white in here. It doesn't stand out too much because it's, you know, there's not a lot of contrast, but maybe these branches over here, you know, would show that highlighting a little bit more. I have to be careful around that oak branch. It's really wet, that pigment ink. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that right there. Left side illumination shining on those trees in the background like that. Okay, so anyway, that is your mood and media, and, you know, what was conceived for a underwater type of color and lighting scheme. I think it looks, you know, pretty good in a terrestrial above ground type of lighting scheme. Pretty fun to do, and those beams are awfully fun to apply and kind of add that dynamic, diagonal visual movement to the scene. Definitely not a static piece. Okay, so anyways, hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments, leave them down below, or any questions. And if you like this video, hope you like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.